Hey there, Outliers. Niiamah Ashong here, and thank you so much for letting us be a part of your journey here today. I'm very excited because we have today a roundtable of incredible trailblazers who are all off in the world doing something different. And I love bringing that into our space because it gives us a chance to really realize that there is no one set path, and how we might see the other people around us going about it doesn't need to be the way that we do it. And so I'm excited to go into this conversation and give you a chance to get to know each of these trailblazers a lot more fully. So let's do this here. Let's bring these trailblazers onto the conversation. Why don't we start with you, Kurt? Kurt, would you take some time here real quick and um, let us know about you and the game you're currently playing?
Sure. Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I've been in the financial services industry and some other areas, but mostly, on the financial side for over 44 years. So during that time, I was fortunate enough to author a couple of books and kind of, you talk about being a trailblazer. I kind of changed what was going on in the marketplace. I kind of stopped drinking the Kool-Aid and I kind of made some counterintuitive kind of points of view. So I do some performance coaching for people in the financial services industry as well. So it's a combination that I still love to be active. So I still build some clients, but at the same time, I do the performance coaching for others because the industry is in need of growth. It's in need. It's getting older. It's very well aged, and we need some younger people. So it's kind of that's kind of where I'm at. I got something called the Middle Class Millionaire Plan is my platform.
Nice, nice. I had said Kurt earlier. I want to make sure I get this really clear. We're talking to Karl Schilling, so like I want to make sure that we have that out here. Carl, I apologize for the
No,
slip
that's
of the
okay.
tongue there.
It's a common thing. He is a
Yeah.
third cousin far removed. So, you know,
I appreciate you owning that and just running with it, but I also want to make sure I'm owning it here in this space too.
no,
Carl, it's an absolute pleasure to play with you, and I like that you keep expanding your game along the way.
appreciate it.
Awesome. Russell, let's get to know you. You mind sharing more about you and the game you're currently playing?
Um, I, I, I don't really know what game, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to live life, sir. I'm just trying to live life, be a good dad to my son when I see him and try to just stay on board, to do the right thing, keep God first, you know what I mean? And just be a good person, just a humble individual. That's basically it, man. Just learn. I just want to learn from people as much as I can.
Yeah, nice, nice.
I'm, I'm,
Uh,
I'm a very simple person.
Yeah, man. Well, welcome here. Like before we came on, Russell was like, "Hey, look, I haven't really done one of these before," and I'm like, "All right, let's just go all in. Let's go ahead and play here." And I like to do this. I like to
Yeah.
bring this in to bring in the realities of it, right? Because a lot of times we see everyone coming off, they're really polished, and you're like, "How can I even just start off this way, right?" Or with what I have, and what I really like, Russell, what I appreciate about you as we get in here is that like you're showing up, right? And as a result the four of us all get to know each other and all the outliers and trailblazers get to know this here like your game has changed as a result of this, so thanks for playing the humble game and for showing up at the same time. Appreciate you
Thank you.
being here.
Not a problem, sir. Thank you.
Awesome. Ian, let's get to know you. Do you mind letting us know more about you and the game you're currently playing?
Yeah, sure. I was an engineer and got a chance to do some things at an early age. Like 6 months out of college, I was in charge of 100 guys on the shop floor, so got to grow up really quickly there. Joined Accenture, where I know you get 10 years experience in one, and again, had great people around me to help me grow. Um, and then started running companies. So run a couple of software companies. The current one is called Elements.cloud. We're all around helping people implement Salesforce better by having better data, better understanding about what they configured. And what's very interesting in the last 6 months, not probably 6, 9 months, is how much AI has changed all of that. So I think the one thing is, yeah, I'm old, but actually I've got a young attitude in terms of it's always about learning, always about trying to find out the new thing, and about enthusiasm. It's about it that I think you said turn up and show up. It's all about that. And allied with that is the whole idea that actually I've learned a bunch of stuff, but how can I pass that on to the next tier, the next people coming through? Again, I'd say, how do we send the elevator down? How do we make sure that we're not up here going, this is great, look at what we've done, but actually, how do we make sure all the things we've learnt can come along with us, but being open-minded enough, sort of a beginner's mindset, not to go, but I know how it all works, because AI's changed all that. So we need to keep on learning ourselves as well. So I think I echo Russell's comment, which is it's all about actually we can learn so much from each other, provided we actually stay open and humble to it.
Yes.
Oh, well, the Outliers, as you can tell, you're in for a treat here in this conversation. Some of the things that are already coming up for me as we're talking here is one, being able to in your words, send the elevator down. Karl, you were talking about helping to keep the game fresh and bring other people along for that. And I want to talk a little bit about that component. First, I'm going to start with the setting the elevator down component because right before we hit record, you had mentioned it, and I remember enjoying the element that it was an elevator and not a stairs. And I think that for like the outliers and trailblazers out here, a lot of people are like, you just got to take one step at a time. I'm working on my next step, so on and so forth. But I've always said, like, why use the stairs when you can use the elevator, right? Like both of them will get you to that end journey. So I'm curious here. What I'd like to do is open up for everyone here. Would you all mind just sharing one time where the logical next step ended up being something where you actually kind of rode the elevator, you chose a floor, you got much further than you had anticipated. Ian, I'm going to come to you first because you had actually started out just a bit with that, with you're like, hey, so I started my job and within 6 months I was already flying here. But maybe you can bring something recent for you. What's something that you stepped into that still had you climbing up high?
Let's take something very current, which is AI. We lent into it really early, by July 2023. I wrote a blog saying the business analyst is going to be the superpower around AI, because it's all about understanding how to ask the questions, making sure and therefore understand the answers. That has supercharged what we're doing at Elements. We actually have agents on our org chart. All of our teams, the first thought is, I'm sure AI can do that for us. I'm sure we could build an agent to do that. So that we're thinking of agents as interns, as co-workers. That has actually made a huge difference in terms of productivity. But it's also reduced the fear of, oh, AI is going to take my job. Not if you can use it well. It's actually going to supercharge you if you're good at what you're doing. So I think that the AI elevator is one that we've all ridden. But it's interesting. The person who's actually been building all the agents inside Elements for us and for clients, he's been building agents his entire career. He graduated 5 months ago. Okay. So we're learning from Elliot and from Megan to the youngest people in the organizations, and you're going, hey, coach me, teach me how you're doing this so we can improve. And I think that aspect of, fine, I can help them in terms of their career, and I'll talk about some of the other aspects of career, but we can help them on that. But some of the stuff that they're learning, they come in with a fresh mind. How do we learn from that?
This is as you're saying, it's hitting me here. What I want to do as we have this conversation, I didn't say this earlier, but like, feel free to jump in. I don't want to be a bottleneck in the conversation for it to come in there. So, Karl, Russell, is there anything that came to mind when based on what Ian just said?
Yeah, I think Ian hits it on the head. I have a podcast at 10 minutes to change your mind. It's only 10 minutes because I've always been a student of the mind. So if you look through some of the great work on some of that, not enough of us really take accountability and control for our own thoughts and our own actions and the ability that we have to expand that. So when Ian mentions questioning, I learned over the years, in order to become a really good professional salesperson, I believe, I ask questions that other people don't ask. So it's like the question behind the question. So I think in communicating with people, if you can ask a question that drives them deeper and they can say to you, well, gee, no one ever asked me that before. I think usually you can find the need and find the area where they're looking for a solution because you were willing to dive a little deeper, be open-minded, and kind of bring something to their mind that they weren't aware of.
Nice. Thanks for bringing that in. Russell, anything coming to you either from what Karl and Ian said?
No, I'm just impressed with these two gentlemen because how they think. I wish more people thought like this. So that's
Hmm.
all I can really say. And kudos to both of you guys.
Yeah.
What I mean? Keep up the
Well,
good work, whatever you're doing. So
I'm going to
that's
play a
all.
little bit in the Carl's game here, which was around asking the question and going a little bit deeper in the question. So, Russell, what was it about like the way that Carl's thinking, the way that Ian's thinking right now that's really right now kind of has you make that statement?
They they seem like they're obviously, I know they're mature men, that's been around. They've been working for a long time. They probably been around like good people, bad people, whatever. They've learned from their experiences, and those people probably learn from their experiences. So I just see a lot of like intelligence, a lot of just growth in both of these men, and I'm just impressed. You know what I mean? I'm
Nice.
just I'm just I wish more people thought like that. And I don't think they do, but kudos to both you guys. You know what I mean?
Well, thank you. But Russell, you said something before that's very, very important because you're talking about being a dad, and I got to tell you, I raised two children,
Yeah.
but I don't think there's a bigger part of society than becoming a true mentor and being a dad,
Mm-hmm.
and helping your children
Yeah.
become open-minded. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they're not led down pathways with others that instead of telling you how to think,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
They tell you what to think. So
Yeah.
I really think that people, if they learn how to think,
Yeah.
they're going to be independent.
And one thing I gotta share, like my son, he's autistic. He's autism. He lives with his mother. Me and her never really were never together. So I made a lot of mistakes. So when it comes to that being a father, so I can admit that I take accountability. I heard what you said about people nowadays not taking accountability, which a lot of us aren't doing today. And I just want to make sure I do better. You know what I mean? Because as a man, we have to do better. As a human being, we have to do better. And I always say you got to pray first, got to keep God first, and you got to just set an example as a man. Don't matter what race you are, black, white, whatever you are, you got to set an example every single day for yourself because your light has to shine through, you know what I mean, to, like the sun, whoever you, and it's not easy because we're in a society today, as we all know, that's so up and down. You know what I mean? One minute
Sure.
we're up, 1 minute we're down. 1 minute we're up, business is great, sales are great, sales are down. You know what I mean? Our marriage is up, our marriages are down. Our kids, so it's hard, you know what I mean? Because I feel like I don't want to keep talking, but I feel like if we trust more into God and more and less in ourselves, I feel like we more trust ourselves when we're not even trustworthy. You know what I mean? God is. God is the most trustworthy entity of all time. So we're not gods. All we are is flesh and bone that God created through the rib, Adam and Eve through the rib, like it says in Genesis. So what I'm saying is at the end of the day, we all have to humble ourselves and be thankful and blessed every day that God is the one. God blesses you with the intelligence that you have and this other gentleman every single day to work on ourselves to be better men, be better women, be better, you know what I mean? So
Sure.
I'm trying to do that every day. And it's hard because every day it's like you look at the society and you're like, why did he do that? You know what I mean?
One of
And
the things that
you
you've been
her,
saying here that I really appreciate too, Russell, is that
yes,
like
yes,
you keep both. You have it seems like there's like both dichotomies in there, right? So you
yes,
have society on one side, but
yes,
you
yes,
also say like I'm taking like personal responsibility
yes,
here as
yes,
well, right?
yes,
And so I'm
and
seeing that combination that's at
yes,
play. So
growth.
I have a question that's showing up here, and it came up because of Ian. You had said something earlier around the beginner's mindset and AI, and you talked about one of the people on your team, and he said he's been doing his entire career. By the way, that's just 5 months, right? Alex, I'm coming back to that moment for a very specific reason, right? One, change is really interesting, right? I was a former actuarial consultant, and in the actuary world, the society of actuaries say risk is opportunity, right? And so change to me is risk, and risk is opportunity. So change is opportunity, right? And what gets me here is that you're like the expert on our team has been doing this their entire career. He's been building all these, and he's been doing it for 5 months. And Alex, I want to like ask you right now, Where in your world right now is there a goal that you have in mind that you're keeping yourself on the sidelines, that you have that like in 5 months from now you would be the expert amongst everyone else around you, the person that people are coming to for questions, if you're just willing to go through those 5 months. So Ian, I'd love to like come to you on this here. It was a really cool frame here. It's like it also doesn't take much for it to be 100%. His entire career, like you positioned him in a position of power. And I thought that was really quite, it's one of these things that I feel it's subtle but important throughout like our path of creating something that has never been created before, or doing something that is unknown or uncertain. So I would love for you to just speak a little bit more about it. It really struck me.
Well, so the first thing is at the moment AI is kicking in and it's forcing everybody to change. So therefore, I mean, there's I mean I'm sure there are industries which are immune, but I live in the technology world, and it's funny. We look at everything where agents are everywhere, AI is everywhere. I think maybe 90% of the population is like, yeah, whatever. It's you can ChatGPT can write a poem, but we're seeing some fundamental changes being driven through, which is disrupting industries. So I think the first point is that that level of change means that so AI is such a big change, everything's thrown up in the air. So it's not like we're not going through a gentle evolution of something. This is as big as when we went from on-premise to cloud applications, or when the mobile phone came out before we even had mobile phones. It feels as big as that, if not bigger. And therefore that gives a chance for everyone to be with that reset. Anybody could be the new expert. So just because you're a big company doesn't mean you're secure. Just because you've got 50 years experience or 30 years experience in something doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be the new expert, because things are changing. So I think that opportunity is not just a financial opportunity. I think it's a personal opportunity. I think the difficulty is picking where to focus.
Well, I think it's great, but it's also I see it as again, to me, the open mind finds opportunity that others miss. So being open-minded is always a powerful ally, but this is like a double-edged sword as well, because as powerful as it is, and from a data-centric point of view, we're going to learn a lot more. We're going to learn a lot more about people. We're going to learn a lot more how to serve people. But at the same time, it's also going to create a new level of laziness. So I think you almost have to reverse engineer it to figure out, okay, it's going to solve some problems, but what are the solutions going to cause problems?
Absolutely.
And and I think that may be the missing piece where people don't do that reverse engineering, because most don't. You know how it is, in big companies, they sit around and make changes, but they never consider how the changes are going to impact, is it going to create more problems than I had when I started? And
Hey, can I just ask any of you
sure.
guys a question? It might be a stupid question, but
No,
if
never
we
is.
have more AI and less humans, how many jobs are we going to have overall in this country? That's the question I have to ask. Granted, stuff is good as far as getting people, to certain heights, to certain levels. That's great, but it's going to shrink down, in my opinion, more jobs. You
Well,
know what I mean? And if let's just say hypothetically it does, what does that mean for the common folk like you and I that are trying to get on and do some, or our kids?
but it could have the actual opposite effect, become making people more aware of being more competitive and having more incentive to really take control of their lives. You know what I mean? I mean, that could be the positive side of it.
Mm-hmm,
And you're
mm-hmm.
right. If it causes more laziness,
Yes,
we already got a society that is, I'm
very
sorry,
lazy right now. They're
you got
very
to be
lazy right
you
now,
got to
my
be
brother.
honest about it. If
Spoon
it
fed,
causes more laziness and it
spoon
causes
fed.
more lack of thought, in other words, you don't people don't work hard to think now.
No,
So if they're
and
not going to think,
mhm.
this is going to think for them.
Yes,
We're going to have more idiocy.
yeah,
And
So
you're
now
right.
I want to come in really quickly here because I saw like I like how the table was going. Ian had a book where he thought about that one of the statements there. So Ian, I'd love to bring you in. What are your thoughts on this so far?
Um, I think the A in AI stands for augment. It makes the best things best. It makes the worst things worse. It also punishes mediocrity. I mean, I said, okay, you ask a stupid question or you ask a question, not a stupid question, you ask a question and you don't think about how you ask it. You then take the answer as though that's right, that's correct, and we've got a problem. The same way as if I got a calculator, I mean, fine, people can't do long division and multiplication anymore. You pump it into a calculator, but if you put the decimal point in the wrong place because you're not concentrating and it comes out with the number, if you haven't got a sanity check to go, now that feels way too big, that can't be the right number. And we're doing that in terms of AI. And so there needs to be a level of education which is not driven by fear of like, it's going to take my job, but actually, how can it support me? So and also if we go back, when tractors came out, there were farmers using horses. So, but it took quite a while before those horses got phased out, and people were using more tractors. Those people who used to be farm workers then redistributed. But I do share Russell's fear, which is this is happening way faster than the introduction of tractors. And it's going to be very uncomfortable for lots of people. Anyone who doesn't like change is screwed. I mean, we're in a world where you have to lean into change. But there will be lots of jobs which can't be replaced and shouldn't be. Anything that's genuinely customer facing. Think about all the bartenders, the customer care, the person who's looking after your parents. If there's quite a lot. If we can use AI to free up some of that time so that the people who genuinely should be spending time with you, like you go to a doctor and they're pretty much just trying to write a prescription and get you out of the room. If they could have more time where AI is really understanding you, your symptoms, your history before you come in, so they can then spend time doing what they ought to be doing, asking the right questions, then that's a benefit. But again, we have to engineer that. We can't expect that just to happen.
I think you're absolutely right. It comes down to really the simplicity of it is if you ask the wrong question, you get the wrong answer. And really what happens predominantly, people ask the wrong questions, right?
But if you don't, the thing is, not knowing the answer is wrong.
Right. Oh yeah, because you're just going further down a rabbit hole, But if you ask a deeper question, or if AI, now I've used AI a little bit. I don't use it for writing. I like to write, but I've had it do some things for me, and I ask it deeper questions to get an answer, and then I reflect on it. And I say, wow, I I wasn't coming up with that answer. I really wasn't. So that was beneficial. If I can find something to make me think deeper and help my questioning, I'm all for it. I really am. I'm with you. But you know how it is. We already live in a society that kind of worships mediocrity. And
Yeah.
good Lord, if we're just going to create more mediocrity, we're really going to have a problem.
So at Elements.cloud, we're going through a fundraise at the moment. So obviously, I got the executive team together. We started writing the business plan, getting all the notes together. And I wrote a deck so we could take it to some investors. And we said, well, let's just give it to Gemini, which is Google, the equivalent of ChatGPT. And it rewrote the presentation and did a significantly better job than we had written. And it was almost embarrassing. It was like why am I even doing this? But we had given it all of the content. It wasn't 100% right. We were able to go and do some fine tuning of it. But it's seen thousands of business plans that have worked. And therefore it's learnt off that. Interesting point. Am I real?
Well, but it's also pulling, you know what it's also doing, gentlemen? It's pulling its own bias as well.
Yeah.
It's pulling its own internal bias because as it learns, it's only getting the information it can find, and it's going to latch on to some misinformation as well.
Okay, hang on. That depends how you use it. If you're simply using the large language model as a reasoning engine, as in rearrange these words in the right order, think about it, do some pattern matching. If you're simply using it to use your data, not the internet's data, which is what we're using it for predominantly. So there's an example where I sort of said, am I real? So this could be me as an avatar.
Sure, that's true.
d-id.com. you could actually produce an avatar that's pretty realistic, driven off. If I'd taken all of the books I've written, all the blogs I've ever written, all the podcasts, and that fed that model, I could be actually an avatar, and you probably wouldn't know.
Well, I could promise you this is me, because if I was going to select an avatar, it would be a hell of a lot better looking.
I appreciate this conversation. And I think that there's as we're having this conversation, I'm thinking about this from a couple of different areas, right? There's the AI conversation that we're having, right? There's the augmented conversation that we're having, and then there's like I'm going to keep bringing it back to outliers and trailblazers, because like we're all going to have our feelings toward AI. But what I love about it is that like it's disruptive, and for the people listening to this here, by the way, you are AI to someone who's not AI right now. Your experiences in life is like designed to come in and be like, hey, the way that things have been are going to change. I want to make sure like while this conversation is like on the nose, definitely about AI here, we're also just go having a conversation about what does it look like to disrupt. And with it, what does it look like to have the responsibility around it? How do you disrupt responsibly, right? But my invitation to us here as outliers is not to say like it's not to not disrupt. We generally can't help it, But like it is what comes out here, and I want to actually give us like steer the conversation in a place of leaning into that. Like, so Karl, you have us thinking about different levels of questions and saying, all right, what's the level of questions that come in? Russell, you have us over here looking and saying, like, how can we be humble with it? Ian, you're looking and saying, like, what are the opportunities here? And what is actually, before we get into kind of doom and gloom about it, like, let's see what is actually like happening at its core. What's the essence of what's being done here? And so I like to bring this all in here because AI allows us to put a magnifying glass on something that I think that we experience as humans when we're trying to go out and do something different, which is, oh wait, this is not the way that it's done. If I did do this, someone's going to get fired. I might get fired. Like my livelihood might be ending. Like there's all these different areas that come into play, which is a general conversation for how do we handle
Well,
change
I
and
think
be the
I
catalyst of
think
change.
you I think you're an actuary, so
Or
see you have a background.
in the past, yeah,
Okay, but you have a background of that, okay?
yeah.
Now I've sold life insurance for many, many years, and I still do, and that's why I wrote the book about it, and try to get people to see it from different perspectives, right? Okay. And as you said, um, we could be fearing of this, or we could be, embracing this. And I think that those who embrace are going to magnificently succeed. Those who embrace whatever comes up, right? When you can make decent decisions about it. But I think, like in the financial world with people, I try to tell people, I try to work with my clients, because you come with a financial bias. We all, what I mean? We all have our own bias. So I could tell you right now, I ask you a question about money, we could kind of find out where your bias is about money. You're going to have one. Okay. And if you can't get yourself past the bias, you can't make a good decision. And you're going to continually make the same mistake financially. Okay. And
I
that's
like this about you, Carl, when you bring in like, because I feel like part of your secret power is like helping people make better decisions. And so just so you know, this is how I play the game. Like I'm like I like to see like what keeps coming up underneath all this. So whether we're talking about better questions, I also get that like you like to play with people who play a big game. Like you're and what I mean by that is like you talk about like mediocrity or being lazy, right? I'm like, oh, that doesn't work in Carl's world here, right?
yeah.
But I like to call all that in because one, it gives us a chance to see like, all right, this is the way that Carl's playing the game and the rules in which he have set for it, which is one really fun. And two, we've had some like kind of general like sweeping comments around like society this or like people this like and like I'm gonna be real with it. I'm like, I know me. Like that's probably the only person in this entire experience that I can take responsibility of because I'm like I have that I have my experience here. And I also recognize that there are like rarefied spaces where people choose to play at an ongoing game. Like Ian, I in my mind, I was like, I wonder if Ian like hangs out with like if mediocrity is like a part of his central world right now, or like if actually like he's beating a lot of people who are like we're striving, we're creating, we're taking ownership of things, we're leading, we're like, and so I want to bring that into this. I want to just put that into this space here about like this is what it is. I had a mentor and coach who said, "Our word creates our world. Our word creates our world." And I want to kind of just slow down a bit here to see like what are we actually putting it out into the world from our words here, and in which ways are we accidentally reinforcing that which is here. Part of the reason why I talk to outliers and trailblazers is because like I need to be talking to people who are like pushing the envelope on things. But there's a lot of us out there, and there's a whole lot of us out there that are playing this, and I want to like give us space for that. Okay.
Okay.
So with this year, I think I'm going to take the conversation in a bit of a different direction. We're going to be wrapping things in here in just a bit. Um, Here's the question I have for each of you. Let me just slow down a little bit in this. All right. So what I want to do now is ask you about like I'm going to maybe call it like your secret sauce, right? Um, like what's the thing that you find that you bring to a conversation or to an experience or to your clients that most other people wouldn't even know is at play, right? So what's like I want to do this right now because we've now gotten a chance to listen to you all. We've heard some of like the ways you think about in certain areas around things, right? And as time goes on, as I've learned this, like we start to make assumptions about, oh, well, Carl has this or Russell has that, right? And I would love to just kind of help break any beliefs for any outliers around who thinks they understand you or that they know you to really get into like what might be playing beneath the surface. Right. So the question here is like, what's one of your skill sets, one of the things that you bring to life that few people actually recognize is the real key to your success? Anyone feel like they want to take that one on?
Uh, I'll start
Yeah,
with it.
Carl.
For me, I've always had the gift, and it took a long time to recognize it, but I've always had the gift of taking very complicated scenarios, very complicated things, and simplifying them. So when I speak to people, I'm not speaking over their head. I'm not speaking, because I've made things very, very simple. And so that's always worked for me. That's always been a blessing, being able to take complex things and make them very simple.
That is fascinating because that's what everyone says about me first.
Yeah,
Isn't that
that's true.
interesting?
I could sense that with you too because of the way you were discussing AI. So,
And that's, I think, that makes it also makes you a lot more approachable, and it actually makes it everything you talk about is actionable because people can relate to it. There are lots of people I meet who are very clever and they talk a lot, and you feel clever having listened to them, but actually you can do nothing with what they've taught you about. It's like, wow, that's interesting. Um, yeah, so yeah, the ability to make the complex simple. So if I have to pick something else, then sense of humor. I think people take themselves too seriously. None of us gets out of life alive. You need to make the most and have fun every day. And you can, even in a business setting, sometimes it's tense, stuff isn't working, not making a joke, but actually bringing a lightness to it when people need to be brought out of things. People will say, "Oh, it's the end of the world." No, it's not the end of the world. The end of the world is when and it all goes black and nothing matters anymore. Nothing is really the end of the world. You can work through most things. You may need to take a step back or even 10 steps back to move forward, but it's rarely is it ever the end of the world.
good point.
And Russell, anything coming for you on this one?
Um, I just like to make people laugh and smile, make people feel comfortable, and I like to just be honest with people. I don't like to play games, you know what I mean? And just that's basically it. Just be honest with people, talk to people the right way, and just try to learn from each other. That's one thing, I like to do. I feel like we're all grown ups in this world, and we need to understand who we are because we don't understand who we are, and who's going to understand anybody else? We have to understand everybody, and it's hard. But see again, that goes with understanding, patience, praying, understanding who you are as a man or woman. Get all the demons out of your soul by acting the right way. Society this is a beautiful world, but the problem is there's too many demons in this world that we allow in our souls. And we're not patient enough with each other. We're not human enough with each other. You know what I mean? We need to be human and humble and understand no one thinks the same. Everyone thinks differently. Everyone has a different mind. Everybody has a different way of thinking, different way of learning. I wish people understand. I wish a lot of people would understand, have some patience, prayer, understand that you and I are different in all areas, all aspects, but we're still human beings. You know what I mean?
Russell, as you say this, I like, so if you're watching this, you might have just seen like a huge smile just like come on my face, and then just like it wouldn't stop. Because Russell, like as you were talking, I was like, oh, I think you solved your own problem with the whole AI thing, right? You're saying we need to be more human. It's like, great, let's let AI do the AI stuff. And then like let's let like Russell and others lead us on how to be more human, to lean more into that human element, to bring more of the patience, so on and so forth. But I was hearing in here, I'm like the elements of this here where I think Ian, I think you were teasing it, where you're like, well, how do we get that to do the things it can do and leave us to do more things that we currently aren't doing. So Russell, I was smiling as you're saying this because none of us have a crystal ball. We don't know where this is going to go. We can always come back to this episode later on and be like, man, we were really wrong, weren't we? Or we'd be like, wow, we got some of this stuff right. But I want to reflect back to you, Russell. Like I feel like I'm hearing a bit of a mission come out for you here, right? And in a conversation about AI, you leaning into the human.
My mission is just to try to humble people and understand that. Look, humble yourself. Understand that you're a human being that's supposed to love yourself and love others. Do we struggle with it? Do I struggle with it? Yes, I do. Have I had bad situation go left in my life? Absolutely. I take accountability for everything that I've done, good, bad, or indifferent. So, and sometimes I'm hypocritical. So I say this to you. I have a YouTube channel. All right. I talk about everything. I can talk racism, talk about my experience, talk about history. I talk about that. People are not always agree with what I say. You know what I mean? And that's fine. But that's my truth. That's what I feel. That's what I've read. That's what, I'm saying to the masses. You don't have to like me. You don't have to like my message. But 101,000 views of people, regardless of.
That's pretty strong. It's authentic. You're just authentic. I mean, that's all people have to be. I think last point, and I know we're running short, but I'll make the one last point because you mentioned God and all, and I think that a lot of people misinterpret. When Jesus said "turn the other cheek," everyone takes that to mean physically.
No.
But it's emotionally and spiritually to turn the other cheek, because if you say you can't offend me.
Yeah.
See what I mean? You can't offend me because I choose not to be offended.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the mindset again, right?
And some people, people might have gotten offended of what I've said.
I can't offend you. You can't offend me. We each take the choice to be offended.
Yeah.
All right.
So, I just tell my truth, brother.
That's it.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring it back here. Russell, by the way, I see you. You started this whole thing. It's like, I've never done this before. I don't know what you're talking about. But let me tell you about my YouTube channel, which has hundreds of thousands. I'm like, I see you here trying to play a game out right now. I see you play a game, right? Outliers. I said it a bit tongue in cheek, but I'm specifically stating this right now to like call in like what do you have going on for you? This whole conversation, we've gone in a lot of different ways. We started out with mentorship. We talked about the elevator. We talked about AI specifically. We talked about the questions that you're asking, and we talked about being humble, how to be even more human, right? And Karl, you just brought out this thing about like, hey, at the core of this whole thing is it's authenticity, right? Mm-hmm. Like I'm grateful that we had the conversation that we had, right? And sometimes the conversations that we have are like really lasered on one element, and other times it's like this is really how like a dichotomy of the world, right? We got like a couple different slivers of people together to engage in a conversation where, like, honestly, back in the day, I would be able to go, this would be a water cooler conversation. And then I became an entrepreneur, And then I found myself spending more time in my office alone talking, like talking through this screen, rather than being able to like actually engage in conversations that are going to continue to help me to keep thinking. So I thank all of you for playing this game and for living your life so strongly that we can come into this space and continue to grow. Outliers, I have an ask of you. If there's something in this conversation that you feel would really benefit one person in your life, I ask you to join us in the one person, one conversation at a time initiative, where you take this episode and share it with that person directly. We would love for you to share this on your social platforms and in any other kind of place where you share your message out in the world. We would absolutely love that. And underneath this, I think that there's a real movement toward change and impact, and that comes from one person, one conversation at a time. So if you can gift them this conversation, that would be absolutely incredible. All right, y'all. So let's put Outliers to the side. They've gotten their outsights for the conversation. We've been able to be in there. I want to wrap up our conversation with just two simple questions. The first one is I want Outliers to know, like, if they want to go deeper in your world, if they want to reach out, do more of what you're doing, engage in conversation with you even beyond there. What is the best way for us to do that? Now, in the way that we are nowadays, we tend to have multiple platforms with all these different handles. Like, let us know like the most leveraged way to get in touch, right? So that's one. And then the second thing is I'm going to ask you for what is your insight from today's conversation? In what ways have you grown as a result of being here? And if you haven't, if you don't have an insight, that's totally fine. You can just say that and we'll let that be in here too. Okay. But we'll go around just for old time's sake. We'll go with the starting lineup. We'll go to Karl, then we'll go to Russell, then we'll go to Ian. All right. How can we go deeper, and then what's an insight you got?
Best way for me, middleclassmillionaireplan.com. I have my book there. It's totally free. And if people would check into that, they would get a better idea about having a consultation with me, to discuss some of these issues. Now, the second thing too is I want to get on Russell's YouTube channel. So, Russell, you need to know that. I mean, 101,000. I want to be on your YouTube channel.
Okay.
But from insight, I appreciate everybody. I think Ian, I appreciate the fact of I've had these debates about AI, and I think you've helped clarify some stuff for me. So I do think I see things a little differently. And Russell, I've appreciated your approach and what you're trying to accomplish. So I think those are the insights I gleaned.
Thank you, Karl. Russell, how about you? If someone wants to go
Um,
deeper in your
I,
world,
Shameless plug, YouTube channel first. Russell Mills, May 22nd, 2017. That's how you find me on YouTube. I talk about a lot of issues. Great conversation with both you guys. I don't want to talk too long. I got to eat dinner. I'm sure you guys do too. So, and write, do read, whatever. Great conversation. Thank you, my brother, for, getting me in here. Feel free to, again, check out my YouTube channel, Russell Mills, May 22nd, 2017. Talk about all type of issues. You might not agree, but this is, how I feel. But everybody, I just want to say thank you for everybody giving me insight, a little bit about the AI, Ian. I'm still a little nervous, but I just want to say thank you.
thanks for playing, Russell. Thanks for playing. And Ian, why don't you round us up for today?
Yeah, best way to get hold of me is LinkedIn. Ian Gotts. Pretty easy to find me on LinkedIn. The image is half a face, so if you see half a face on the image, then that's me. That's where I post everything I write. We have a podcast YouTube channel called Experts React, where I get experts to come and talk about particular topics. Again, a lot of it's educational. It's not selling stuff. It's trying to talk about aspects that they're interested in. What have I learned from this? I think it's really nice that three people can go on spec, there's an email from this guy you've never heard. I'm prepared to give up an hour of my time to go and have a conversation. I think everyone is too busy being busy to take time and actually have what I call a conversation of possibilities. I've no idea where this is going to go, but hey, if you never join in and never commit, you're never going to find out. And I think we need to have more of these conversations where people aren't going, well, I've got something else I need to do. I'm looking at my watch all the time, to actually sit and actually have a proper discussion.
Well, I appreciate all of you for taking it on. You take every time that someone comes on here, they're taking a chance, right? And at the same time, we're also getting the chance we're rolling the die because risk is opportunity. Thank you, Society of Actuaries. Outliers, this conversation, they were able to have it on your behalf, but my thing is that please take this conversation and keep having it out in your world. Until the next time that we talk, remember this, be you on purpose. Journey on.
Thank you.